It was 3 in the morning. Dad had rung me, again, worried about a noise downstairs that turned out to be the air conditioner, and I just sat on the edge of my bed, and for the first time, I didn't feel love. I felt resentment, and then I felt ashamed of the resentment. That was the night I knew something had to change.
That moment, that 3 shame spiral, is something hundreds of Gold Coast families know intimately. The weight of caring for someone you love, the guilt of having a bad night, the silence of carrying it all alone. Welcome to the Wellness Bridge. I'm Gary Chen, physiotherapist and founder of GC Integrative Physiotherapy and Wellness on the Gold Coast. Today, we're going somewhere we haven't been before on this show. We're sitting with two voices from the same family. Karen, who has been her father Ray's primary carer for the last 3 years, and Ray himself. Because caring isn't a one-way story, and the science, the ancient wisdom, and the real human experience of Gold Coast families are all pointing to the same truths. Karen, Ray, thank you both for being here. This is genuinely a first for the Wellness Bridge. Karen, let me start with you. You are 48, you have your own career, your own life. What does a normal Tuesday look like for you right now?
It's a lot. I drive to Dad's 3 mornings a week before work. I handle all his medications, his GP appointments, his physio referrals. On weekends, I'm doing his grocery shopping, checking the house is safe, making sure nothing is a fall hazard. And in between, I'm fielding phone calls, sometimes at midnight, sometimes at 3 a.m. It just adds up without you noticing.
And Ray, how does it feel from your side to have Karen showing up like that week after week?
It's a funny thing, getting old. You spend your whole life being the one who looks after everyone else. And then one day you need help getting your socks on, and your daughter is the one standing there. It's humbling. Some days it feels like a gift. Other days it feels like a burden I didn't ask to put on her.
That tension, the love and the weight existing in the same breath, is at the heart of what we're exploring today. Because what you're describing, Karen and Ray, is one of the most common and least talked about health stories in Australia right now. So let me share what the research actually says. Because this isn't just a personal story, it's a public health story. A 2024 systematic review of family caregivers of older adults found that caregiver burden, that word the researchers use for the cumulative strain of caring, is not just emotional, it's physical. Caregivers are at significantly elevated risk of muscle injuries, chronic fatigue, high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease. Conditions that develop quietly over months and years of sustained pressure while the carer is focused entirely on someone else. The burden shows up in 4 dimensions: physical exhaustion, emotional distress, disrupted schedules, and social isolation. And here is what surprised even the researchers. The most common trajectory of caregiver burden over time is not that it improves, it stays stable, which means without some kind of intervention, most carers spend years sitting at the same high level of strain. Same weight, different Tuesday.
That's exactly what it felt like. Not one big breaking point, just the same weight every single day.
And the data confirms what you're describing. Research published in Frontiers in Aging found that solo caregivers, those without a network of support around them, have consistently and significantly higher burden scores than those with shared care arrangements. The absence of even occasional temporary replacement help was one of the strongest single predictors of persistent severe burden. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The science has now confirmed what every carer already knows in their body. Ray, did you know any of this was happening to Karen?
Not at first. I knew she was tired, but she'd never say anything. She's like her mom that way. keeps it all inside.
Karen, what kept you from asking for help?
Guilt, mostly. He's my dad. Who else is going to do it? And there's this voice in the back of your head that says, if you need a break, you must not love him enough. Like needing rest is somehow a betrayal.
Here is where Eastern and Western wisdom meet, and they meet in a way I find genuinely beautiful. In Confucian tradition, the concept of filial piety describes the duty of adult children to honor, support, and care for their aging parents. It is one of the oldest moral frameworks in human history. And for many Gold Coast families with Asian heritage, it isn't a philosophical concept. It is simply how you live, how you were raised, what love looks like in practice. But here is what the latest research reveals, and it is subtle and it is important. There are two distinctly different expressions of filial piety. The first is authoritarian. You care because you must. Because not caring makes you a bad person. Because the community is watching and judging. The second is reciprocal. You care because you choose to. Because this person gave you life, gave you everything. And caring for them is your way of saying thank you. And the science shows they produce completely different health outcomes. Authoritarian duty obligation without choice is associated with higher depression, higher anxiety, and paradoxically higher risk of the very thing it is trying to prevent. But reciprocal filial piety, gratitude-based caring, is a protective factor for mental health. It transforms the experience of the same set of actions. The drive to Dad's house on Tuesday morning looks identical from the outside, but inside the carer, it is either a sentence or a gift.
That's actually a really important distinction, because I do resent it sometimes. But it's not Dad I resent. It's the feeling of having no choice, of having that voice that says I have to be here.
That is exactly the insight. The care is identical. The love is identical, but the internal frame, obligation versus gratitude, changes everything about how it lands in your nervous system, in your body, across the years.
When I think about why I came to this country in the first place, for Karen's future, for her children, I think I understand what you mean. The gratitude goes in both directions. I am grateful she is here. She does not need to feel obligated. I would not want that for her.
I didn't know you felt that way, Dad.
I know.
So what do we actually do with all of this? Here are 5 evidence-based strategies grounded in the research for every carer and every family navigating aging right now. Number 1. Move your body, not as a punishment, not as another thing on the to-do list, as medicine. A 2025 systematic review published in Frontiers in Public Health found that combined aerobic and strength training programs as little as 2 to 3 sessions per week over 4 to 9 months significantly reduced caregiver burden scores. One 9-month home-based exercise program dropped burden levels from 55.7 to 47.8 on a validated scale. That's a medium to large effect. Physiotherapy says movement is the first prescription. Number 2, 10 minutes of muscle relaxation twice daily. Progressive muscle relaxation, tensing and releasing your muscles from your feet upward, was tested in a clinical trial where caregiver stress scores dropped from 7.57 to 5.08 after just 3 months. You do not need a gym or a trainer. You need a chair, 10 minutes, and the willingness to stop treating yourself like a machine. Number 3, share the load. This is the non-negotiable. Solo caregiving is the single strongest predictor of persistent severe burden in the longitudinal research. On the Gold Coast, Carer Gateway, call 1800-422-737 can connect you with in-home respite support, community groups, and emergency carer breaks. Using these services is not a sign of failure. It is the most loving thing you can do for your parent, because a depleted carer is not the carer your parent needs or deserves. Number 4, reframe your story. Ask yourself right now, why am I showing up? Not I have to be here, but I choose to be here because of what this person means to me. Research on reciprocal filial piety is clear. That single shift in your internal narrative produces measurably better mental health outcomes over time. Obligation is a cage. Gratitude is a choice. You can make that choice every Tuesday morning. Number 5, and this one is for the Ray in your family. Say thank you. Fully, not just thanks for the shopping. The full acknowledgement of what the carer is doing and what it means. Research suggests that care recipients who actively express appreciation and recognition significantly buffer carer burnout. Words matter. Ray, you want to take this one?
Karen, you have never once made me feel like a burden, even when I've been one. I see what you do, and I am proud of you. Thank you, love.
Dad?
That is the thing about caring communities. The science and the ancient wisdom say the same thing. Care is most sustainable when it flows in both directions, when it is chosen, not merely endured, when it is shared across a community, not shouldered by one person alone. If you are a carer listening to this, you are doing sacred work, and you deserve support just as much as the person you are caring for. If you are someone being cared for, your gratitude, your acknowledgement, your full thank you matters more than you know. Karen, Ray, thank you for opening your family up to this conversation today. These are the stories Gold Coast families need to hear more of.
Thank you for having us, Gary.
My pleasure, mate. It was a good chat.
At GC Integrative, we believe that health is not just what happens in the clinic. It happens at 3 in the morning at the edge of a bed. It happens in the Saturday grocery run. It happens in a phone call that says, I see you and you are not alone. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a family who is carrying something heavy right now. Leave a comment, tell me your story. Find us at gcintegrative.com.au or on Instagram at Gary Rockhyde. And remember, together we find balance in one. Take care, Gold Coast.